Think about the last time someone stopped talking to you. No fight, no explanation, just silence. And you know that feeling that comes next, that desperate urge to fix it, to apologize, even when you don't know what you did, to check your phone every 5 minutes, to replay every conversation, looking for the moment it all went wrong. That feeling isn't weakness. That's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. And someone in your life knows that, and they're using it. Psychologists call it the silent treatment. John Gottman, one of the most cited researchers in relationship science, gave it another name: stonewalling. And in his decades of research on couples, he identified it as one of the 4 behaviors most predictive of relationship failure. The other 3 are criticism, contempt, and defensiveness. But stonewalling is different, because the others involve doing something. Stonewalling involves doing nothing. And nothing, it turns out, is one of the most powerful things one person can do to another. Now, not everyone who goes quiet is a narcissist. Some people shut down because they're overwhelmed. Some need time to process. That's human. That's normal. But what we're talking about today is something else. We're talking about the kind of silence that's deliberate, targeted, the kind that ends the moment you comply, the kind that someone in your life turns on and off, like a switch. Here's what's happening inside your brain when someone goes silent on you. And this is where it gets genuinely disturbing. Professor Kipling Williams, distinguished professor of psychological sciences at Purdue University, has spent decades studying what happens to people when they're ostracized, excluded, ignored, erased. He used MRI scans to watch what the brain does in real time, and what he found was this: the same neural pathways that activate when you feel physical pain are the same ones that activate when you're being ignored. Let that sit for a second. Your brain does not distinguish between being punched and being given the silent treatment. At a neurological level, it registers both as damage. And Williams found something else that makes this even harder to shake. This pain response is universal. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how confident, how self-aware. He said, "We all feel the pain of ostracism just about equally, no matter how tough we may be. That's not a character flaw. That's biology. And a narcissist who uses the silent treatment on you is exploiting a neurological vulnerability you cannot simply choose your way out of." Now, why do they do it? A 2022 study, When Silence Speaks by Agarwal and colleagues, looked at this question directly. What are the actual motivations behind the silent treatment? And they found 5 reasons it gets used: punishment, manipulation, control, a bid for time, and relational aggression. Notice what's not on that list: healthy processing, emotional regulation, the need for space. Those are things real people in real conflict sometimes need. But in a narcissistic relationship, the silence isn't recovery. It's management. Here's the psychological sequence of what happens to the target. First, confusion. What did I do? Then, self-examination. A frantic review of every word, every tone, every text message. Then, anxiety. And finally, the part the narcissist is actually waiting for: pursuit. You reach out. You apologize. You de-escalate. And the moment you do that, you've confirmed something they needed to believe: that they hold the power in this relationship, and you have just handed it to them. Research on coercive control, including the work of domestic violence researcher Evan Stark, shows that the psychological harm of this kind is often greater and longer lasting than the harm of physical violence. Because the wounds are invisible, and invisible wounds are the hardest to name, and the hardest to heal. There are 3 things you'll notice about the silent treatment when it's being used as a weapon, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. The first is selectivity. A person who is genuinely overwhelmed goes quiet with everyone. They cancel plans. They cancel work calls. They cancel obligations. A narcissist who uses silence as punishment goes quiet with you, perfectly functional with colleagues, with friends, with anyone whose attention they still want. Only you get the silence. That's not emotional flooding, that's deliberate. The second is the trauma bond. This is one of the most counterintuitive pieces of the whole thing. The silent treatment ends. And when it ends, the relief you feel is intense, almost euphoric. That contrast, pain, then relief, triggers something in the brain that psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism behind addiction. The unpredictability makes the reward feel stronger. So you don't just feel relieved when they talk to you again. You feel grateful, and grateful becomes attached, and attached becomes dependent. That's not an accident. The third is the pattern. One episode of the silent treatment is confusing. 2 is a red flag. 3 or more. And you're looking at a pattern. And patterns in relationships with narcissists don't break on their own. They escalate. Because each cycle teaches the target one lesson. Your emotional state is conditional on their approval. And once you've internalized that, you've handed them something that is very difficult to take back. Here's the part nobody talks about. Because it's uncomfortable. The silent treatment works. Not just because of your biology. Not just because of their manipulation. It works because somewhere along the way, you started to believe that their silence means something true about you. That if they're not talking to you, you must have done something that deserved it. That your worth in the relationship is being evaluated. And that you are, right now, failing the test. That belief, that silent absence equals evidence of your inadequacy, is the most powerful thing the silent treatment installs. And it doesn't go away just because the silence ends. It stays. It makes you smaller the next time you might push back. It makes you careful in ways you weren't before. It trains you. This is not weakness. Clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula, one of the leading researchers on narcissistic personality disorder, describes how children raised by caregivers who use silence as punishment develop hypervigilant nervous systems. Systems calibrated to detect emotional temperature and prevent the withdrawal before it happens. Some of you reading the reactions you have to the silent treatment in your current relationship are reading the wiring installed in you a long time ago. So, what do you do with all of this? I'm not going to tell you to cut someone off, or to stay, or to do anything. That's not what this is. But I'll ask you something. When someone in your life goes quiet, is the silence a sign that they need space, or is it a sign that you need to comply? Because those are very different things. And the way you answer that question says a lot about how much of yourself you've already let someone else define. Understanding is not the same as escaping, but you cannot escape something you haven't named, and now you have a name for it. If this made something click for you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want more of this, the psychology behind why people do what they do, subscribe. We're just getting started.